you doing, pal?
I am doing okay under the circumstances. Not an easy time, but we'll get through it, I hope.
Pretty shitty and scary out there. Well, here we are, the second episode of The Sopranos, called 46 Long, written by David Chase, directed by Dan Attias. And now, this is the episode. So you shot the pilot. You came back 10 months later to shoot this.
10 months later. We came back, I think, in June of 1998.
Okay, so now, when you got back, everybody was in a good mood, ready to go?
Yeah, right after The Sopranos. September, so we shot the pilot August of 97. In September of 97, Johnny V and I starred in a buddy comedy called On the Run. And Sharon Angela was in it as well, Joe Ganiscoli. And that was also cast by Sheila Jaffe and Georgianne Walken.
So you get
and
back.
Then we did the Witness to the Mob with Sirico and Vinny. And
so you were working.
We were working, yeah.
You were working.
And then we got the go-ahead Christmas, which was
got
great.
back to work. Now, how many days at the beginning, if you remember, how many day episodes were there? Do you know?
How many days did it take to shoot an episode?
Yeah. I mean, I know at the end, and I know when I came on, I think it was 9, and then it was 11, and so.
Oh no, it was more than 9. It was always more than 9. I think it was. For some reason, I think it was 15 from the beginning. I could be wrong. No?
Oh, I don't think it was that much. Yeah,
no?
I don't think
12,
it was that much.
12.
But don't forget, it's also an hour, as opposed to network TV, which an episode is 41, 42 minutes because of the commercials. This was a solid hour. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. So it's like shooting a half a movie every week.
That is true.
Yeah. I mean, so it's a whole different animal. It looks like a film.
It was shot on film. Yeah. Now a lot of most everything is done digitally.
Yeah. So it's
Sopranos was shot on film.
Now tell me, you had the read-throughs from day one, right?
I don't remember if we did it for the pilot, but we would do, which means the cast would get together and sit around a table and read the script.
Everyone that was in that episode, whether they had one line,
even if you had a little part,
Even one.
And line. As that got on, they got, like as the show got more and more popular, the press would try to find out storylines, and then people had to sign confidentiality things,
non-disclosures. But so I remember, depending on that episode, how big the cast was, but it was a big square table, sometimes rectangular, and all the producers were there, all the writers, and you would go around the room, introduce yourself.
It'd be food, of course. Lunch.
There'd be a lot of food. Always food. Always food.
Yeah. You go around and introduce yourself. And it was great because also...
and the character you were playing.
Yeah, but a lot of us, I didn't see Lorraine during the shooting because she was on a different day and a different set. And so it was fun because we'd all look, The Sopranos was a special... I've done a lot of TV. I've done a lot of movies. The Sopranos was very special because I always liken it to... It was like walking down the street and hanging out with your friends every day. To me, that's what it was like. Most jobs are not like that. It's never been like that again for me on a TV set.
And it'll probably never be again for either one of us. It's not going to happen. This was once in a lifetime thing.
A lot of us knew each other from before. And if you didn't, you became friends. And there were no room for attitudes.
That wasn't going to fly. And
Jim was much more. He was more like the captain rather than the boss. Yeah. And he wanted everybody to feel, comfortable and welcome. And it really felt like that. And then we also went out after work a lot.
We went out after the read-throughs if you weren't working.
Right. After the read-throughs. I had a bar at the time.
That's right.
My wife and I owned a bar in Chelsea.
I spent many a night in there. So you go, we would have a big square table, a lot of food. You're talking before time. You're catching up because, like you say, a lot of people I never worked with. You get to know each other. Go around the table. People that had one line would come. I remember my first read-through. It was my first read through. I've never had been to one before, and I remember kind of I had heard stories of people getting fired at the read through. Like that
Oh,
people.
really?
Yes, oh yes, that they for one reason or another. Now that they came in, they weren't what they expected. The producers, they didn't look like they looked. Some people were hired without auditioning, and I was paranoid that I was going to get fired. I remember asking a comic, Bill Kirkenbauer and Joe Rogan, asking them, what do you do with the read through? Do you go 100%? And they said, nah, about 85%, 80%, and the purpose of the read through is so the writers could hear the words, and then they usually, a lot of times you'll get some notes, sometimes not, but you would get some notes. They were going to change this and that. And then we would sit around and bullshit. And then some of us would go out after the read through. And we had it every single show.
And it was mandatory,
Yes.
even if it was your day off. Because as we got into production, you'd often do the read through during the episode before
on the lunch hour.
So if you weren't working, you'd have to come in on your day off.
Yeah, they would send.
But it was mandatory unless you were sick or working or on something else or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the read through. I enjoyed going to them. It might have been a hassle for some people, a lot of fun. But I enjoyed that. And like I said, you read the script from the beginning to the end with no interruptions.
And as far as the scripts, like I said, I liked the pilot. I had a really good time. I didn't know I didn't know if this could really fly. You know what I mean? Who knew? It was on cable. We got picked up. Great news. They gave us this first season, 13 episodes. So we were going to do 12 more. Great gig. 12 episodes.
And you're in New York. You're living here. You're shooting here.
Shooting in New York, New Jersey. That was all exciting. But really, during that first season, when you started seeing the script after script and seeing how deeper it got, more intricate, more interesting, more bizarre, more funnier, then I realized this is really, really special. Whether or not it's going to be a hit, who knows, before it was on the air, because we shot them all that summer. It didn't go on the air till January. But I did get the sense we were doing something really fantastic.
Now, back then, when you were shooting in Jersey and New York, well, the studio was in New York. The exteriors were all in New Jersey.
Mostly,
and David would say that New Jersey was kind of like a second, was like another cast member.
And it was really fun. I mean, it was shooting on location. I love shooting on location.
But nobody knew who you were. Like, there were fans, once the show was rolling, there was hundreds and hundreds of fans around.
Oh, you had to do crowd control and security and
all that shit.
Stuff.
But at the beginning, nobody knew.
Yeah, they knew you a little bit from stuff. Yeah.
Did they?
From here and there. Goodfellas.
Yeah. Well, they knew you.
But it was fun being around there, especially after the show was a hit. People would invite me sometimes, in their house to relax or have dinner or get something to eat, strangers. And for shooting in front of down the block, come in the house. My wife's got some macaroni.
Yeah, the people of Jersey were very proud. I tell you what.
Yeah. We were the home team.
A lot of people say Sopranos put New Jersey on the map because before that, Jersey got a bad rap. But now you see in Jersey in a different light, New Jersey in a different light. And suddenly people want to go to New Jersey. People go on those Soprano tours. People want to see the spots. They want to see where Tony's house was and the sporting goods store and the pizzeria and the pork store, So it was good for Jersey all the way around, a long run. I mean, the show went from 1997 to 2007.
Right. There never would have been a Jersey Shore reality show if it wasn't for the Sopranos.
Yeah, well, I wish there wasn't one.
I don't know what that says.
Who did that help besides them, I guess? But I think, it certainly brought Jersey into a different light. So Dan Attias, the director, I never worked with him. What was he like?
He's a great director. He's a veteran TV guy, and he did a lot of stuff with HBO after Sopranos, like True Blood, 6 Feet Under.
I never got to be in one of his episodes. That was one guy I never met. So
I don't think he did too many of them.
Yeah. Now, was there anything different with the shooting now that, okay, you shot the pilot, everyone's back, everyone's happy, everyone's in a good mood. Uh, Anything different?
Just you had less time. Now, the pilot, I think we did it in a month. Now we're doing it in like maybe 10 days. Maybe it was 2 weeks or something like that. It would get production schedule got longer as we went on, but
well,
as you get more successful, you can ask for more days.
Well,
when you're
of course,
successful when you're a hit.
I mean, at the end, I think it took us the last 9 episodes took us 9 months or close to it.
Yeah,
for whatever reason, so that was a good thing. Now, David's not directing this, but he wrote it. Was he on set all the time at that point?
He usually, the writer of the episode is on set as a producer along with the director. So
now you David wrote 5 episodes, right?
Yeah, I did. Not till I didn't start till the second season. So David was probably on set with Dan Attias. TV is a writer's medium, they say, really, because the writers are the producers. Usually the writers are in charge, the showrunner. But it's important to keep a level of consistency and tone because you have all these episodes and different directors. And this show particularly, they would have tone meetings which sometimes would be very long. Tone meeting is you go scene by scene, line by line, character by character, every element, and just pick apart what the writer's intention is. And the director would really have to adhere to that, and David Chase, and I learned this from him as well, he is really into details. If you notice,
absolutely,
the tiniest character, like if in the script it said a guy delivers pizza, he has one line, right? And it says in the script he's wearing a Brazil soccer jersey. On the day, that kid better have that soccer jersey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And everything even the littlest things. What kind of candy is in the candy dish? What kind of cookies someone's eating? What they're eating for breakfast? It's not just, anything's fine. Absolutely not. Which is why the show is probably the best show in TV history, because not everybody gives a fuck like David Chase.
Well, and also why you could watch it 5 times, and see the same episode time and time again, because there's such a specificity and attention to everything. So,
absolutely.
And things, here's the other thing, like you were saying, nothing's by accident, but when you're really involved in something as a writer, a creator, director, even as an actor, even choices that seem arbitrary or random are coming because you're so involved. Nothing's random anymore, because even if it's unconscious, it's coming from a place of you being so connected to the material.
No, I understand completely. I'm just talking the little stuff, what they're eating, what we're eating, why. There's David has a reason for everything. All right, so let's talk about this episode. Like I said, 46 long. It aired on January 17th, 1999. Some great guest stars in this episode. Yes, we have the usual cast, the series regulars, which we've gone over. And now you see Michael Rispoli, Jackie, who was possibly going to be Tony Soprano. We see Jackie in this one. Al Sapienza, who plays Mike Palmisi. He is a wonderful guy. Works more than anyone I know. He works everywhere, this guy. And he took care of Junior before me.
So you they needed a new guy to take care of Junior and drive him around and be his bodyguard. He was Junior's
guy, and then I became Junior's guy in the second season. You got Anthony DeSando, who plays Brendan Falone.
Anthony is a great actor. He was in New Jack City. He was in Federal Hill.
I worked with him. He played my cousin on Blue Bloods. We had a great time.
He worked with us in 2003. My wife and I built a theater called Studio Dante, and we produced new plays, off-Broadway plays, and he was in one that I directed called The Given, and he was fantastic. And I'm going to talk about this through the length of our podcast, a lot of Ventimiglia worked at the theater in a play called Ponies. A lot of the actors on the show I brought into the theater for, because I was producing all the plays and directed some.
I was
And
there.
the movie, I wrote and directed a movie that Steve, you starred in, called The Hungry Ghosts. And like 18 of the actors in that came from the theater, or at least worked at the theater at some time. And Anthony was one of those, and he's a tremendous actor and was great.
And he does a great job.
Brendan Filone.
Andrea Di Matteo is back as Adriana, playing your girlfriend. Frank Santarelli, Georgie. He plays.
Did you know Frank? Because he was a comedian. He's a comedian.
I did not know.
Right?
He's a comedian from Boston, a good comedian. I did not know Frank before this. Maybe I knew of him. That tattoo is fake. Got a big giant tattoo. He plays a great role. He's around early in the episodes, and then he comes back later on during the course of the series.
Joanne Carlo plays the supervisor of Green Grove, the nursing home. She's a really good actress, and I saw her work. I spent a year at the Actors Studio, and she did Othello, and she played Desdemona, a very kind of musical punk version of it, and she was incredible. I'll never forget it. Yeah. And when I saw her on the set, it was way before Sopranos. When I saw her on the set,
Olivia were not seeing eye to eye at all this episode.
Well, Olivia and nobody sees eye to eye. I mean, who sees eye to eye with Olivia?
Mike Epps, comedian. I do not know. He's done a ton of movies. I believe he's playing Richard Pryor in his biop. He's got a small role, but a good role. Yancey Arias, he's worked a ton.
So, Richard Pryor claims to have had a relationship with Brando. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I heard that recently.
Yeah, no. That's been going around for quite a while.
I just heard that recently. Is that going to be in the movie? That would be interesting.
Well,
seeing the two of them.
I don't want to play Brando, if that's what you're asking. The fat Brando?
I'm not asking.
The fat Brando that wore a bed sheet? He used to walk around like with a bed sheet on him. But that's what they say. I think his daughter.
That would be an interesting duo. I mean, I would have.
Well, they know each other from Batman. I mean, Superman. I think the first Superman movie.
No. Richard Pryor wasn't in the first one.
No?
Brando was.
I don't know. Brando was, but I think that's the relationship. But I don't know. Stephen Randazzo.
Steve Randazzo, I met.
I don't know him.
About 7 years before on a movie called Mac, which was directed by John Turturro, written and directed by John Turturro. John starred in it. It was about John's father, and Steve and I were in a scene together. He was also in Jungle Fever. Good actor. He was only in this. He plays in the Interview with Harvey Levin. He plays the wise guy who turned and didn't go to jail because he ratted the mob.
And now Victor Colicchio. Is that how you say it, Victor Colicchio?
Victor Colicchio plays the guy in Pussy's Garage, and Victor and I met. My first professional job as an actor. There was an off-Broadway play called Half Deserted Streets, and I got the lead. I got the audition through the Backstage newspaper, which would have auditions for films.
Is that the one Dan Grimaldi was in?
So Dan Grimaldi was in it. He played my father, who later was on The Sopranos. It was written by a guy who wound up winning the Oscar for Crash. He wrote the script Crash. And I think he wrote $1 Million Baby as well. His name was Bobby Moresco. And it was my first play. First job as an actor. I was the lead. It got a lot of attention because it was based on a true story. It was about the Westies, the Irish mob in Hell's Kitchen. And I got fired after opening weekend, which was devastating. My first job, 4 years studying, auditioning, trying to get a job, get a lead, article in the Times before we opened about the play, and then I get fired after opening weekend.
Any warnings, or it just came out of nowhere?
I didn't respect the director, and I was in acting class studying for years, and I didn't really know how to work with a director. I knew how to act. I was just studying the craft of acting, and I didn't respect him, and I didn't listen to him. And in some ways, he was kind of right, but they didn't really give me an opportunity or a way to.
So they didn't say, "Get on the fucking ball, or we're going to fire you."
Well, I didn't know what the ball was. You know what I mean? I thought I was doing really good work.
Probably the best thing that ever happened to you. She never
Maybe.
made that mistake again. Seriously.
So
I know at the time.
Victor and I were in that together. We became friends a few movies after with John Gallagher, The Deli, and something else called Vinny D with Frank Vincent and Men Lie. And then we started writing The Summer of Sam. Actually, Victor started writing. It was his idea. And we wrote together for like a year. I was going to direct it, and I brought it to Spike Lee, who wanted to executive produce it. And we couldn't get a deal with me as the director. So a year in, Spike decides, that he would direct it. And then we got a deal. And actually, the movie shot during season 1 of The Sopranos at the same time. So I was going to play the lead, the part that Adrian Brody did, and I couldn't do it because I was booked all summer. I did do a small part as a projectionist in a gay porno theater at midnight.
I didn't know that. No, I saw the movie. I didn't know you were going to be the lead.
Yeah, and I had to work one day, both on The Sopranos, and then dress up in my, leather outfit.
Come on, you wear that all the fucking time. Who are you kidding?
Yeah,
I've seen you in that outfit. Who you bullshitting?
So Victor plays the guy running Vinny Pastore, Big Pussy's auto body shop.
Yeah, it's a nice scene. It's a nice scene where he talks.
He's a very good actor, yeah, and a great writer.
Okay, so here we go. So it opens up. Well, we told you all about the cast and a lot of the guest stars. So it opens up. Guys are counting the money.
But now we're in the Bada Bing. It's like now we've established that it's part of our territory, which it wasn't really. We weren't. The crew wasn't running the Bada Bing or working out of it. Now we are.
Yeah,
we're in the back room of the Bada Bing.
And now, were you in the back room, or did they built that on the set? The back room.
That was built on the set.
Yeah. So the guys are counting the money.
And these images of money being dumped on the table and them eating, and it's very kind of gluttonous. And, to me, there's those images of greed. Like Schirripa said to me once, he goes, talking about wise guys, he goes, these guys are thieves. That's what they do. They're thieves.
Absolutely.
The money falling, the money dumping on TV. It's an interview with the wise guy talking about how the old day, the party's over.
That he wrote a book.
The mob is dead.
He had turned state's evidence.
The mob is dead because of Rico. There's no more loyalty. People turn on each other. Yet, here's all this money flowing in. These guys are doing good. They mentioned and Christopher's
you're lifting weights. You're smoking and you're drinking a beer and you're lifting weights.
And lifting. He's a multitasker.
And this is also where Paulie starts, where he repeats everything. He tells a joke, right? Like he said something to you. Yeah, your mother blew me at the Bonbon concession. Hey, you hear what I said, Sil? And throughout the series, he says this. Wings are a little bit bigger. Wings are a little bit bigger in episode 2. The wingometer brings it up, I'd say, a half inch. All right?
Yeah. They also mention, Big Pussy mentions cloning. Christopher thinks he's talking about cell phones. But they say, who's least likely to be cloned is the mayor of New York at the time was Giuliani. Because the mob hated Giuliani back then.
He busted with the RICO Act, and he busted that. But you know what's funny?
But after 9/11, they loved Giuliani.
Of course.
Everybody loved him.
He was a good bedside manner. He gave the city hope, and then he went off the rails somewhere, Rudy. But at the time, during 9/11, we needed him. He was a good man, I got to say, if you ever been around these kind of guys, which I have been and you have been, they know a lot about a lot of things, or so they think. They're not just
they can talk about any subject.
Yeah, they don't talk about mobby stuff. Like they know about anything. All kinds of shit.
And they're gossips too. They gossip a lot. They gossip and talk about other people and other guys.
And they want to know, and they're sitting around and they just know off the wall shit. Like, that stuff you would never think that they were conversing about, like not just sports, Hey, I got a cousin, the birth. It's very funny. And this is to a T. Guys are just sitting around bullshit. Just about
Yeah,
nonsense.
I think a lot of times they're bored. It's not like they're punching a
not
clock
action
and they're
every
busy
minute.
every day.
Of
No.
course.
At night they'll go out and have dinner and gamble and whatever,
Chase
meet
broads and
broads.
do what
But
they're doing.
during the day, what are they doing? They're sitting around reading the paper, talking about what's in the Post or the Daily News.
Tony's reading the paper at the bar at the Bada Bing. Pussy's reading the newspaper. I mean,
there's a lot of reading. They were up on their current events.
Yes,
definitely.
Yes, they were.
So,
AJ, good scene. They're in the kitchen. AJ, Tony's son, tells his mom that the teacher's car got stolen. Tony gets up, wants to see the kids off to school. He's going to go back to bed. Carmela, once again, goes to the well. You think you could help the teacher find the car?
Right. Without hesitation. So this is obviously something that's become habitual and ingrained in
absolutely.
And
he don't want no part of it. Like he says, he tells her, I changed my name to Soprano from, I forget what the
LoJack.
LoJack. So then he asks the kid, which is funny because it's something I would probably do. What grade are you getting? He says a D+. So
right.
He decides to help.
But
which we all do.
But her instinct from the beginning is, how can we, help this guy out? But, obviously then he's in our debt.
I mean, she's so conflicted. So conflicted.
But it's interesting. Right before this scene, right, is when Chris and Brendan hijack the truck, right? And it's at night, it's violent, they're stealing, and then it cuts to an exterior establishing shot of the Soprano house. It's green, there's trees, it looks like a mansion on a hill, it's beautiful. Yeah. And it's a really great transition because it's like, here's this darkness and violence and thievery.
But even in that scene,
cut to, here's the result of it, this mansion. The dichotomy, but also one thing leads to the other.
But even in that scene, it's a funny scene. You guys hijack the guy. The guy says he's got to get hit.
He needs to get beat up.
He needs to be scathed. So he gets beat up. Otherwise, they're going to think he was in on it. Very dark humor. Very, very dark humor, but very funny.
But I thought that transition really, the edit.
See, you're right.
Really
I didn't notice
nails
that. See, I didn't notice that. You're a director, you're a writer. You look at things differently than I do. There's things that I catch. I catch a lot of the humor. A lot of this stuff makes me laugh. Maybe not everyone, but it makes me laugh. I think it's a way funnier show than it's been.
It's hilarious.
Credit for.
Well, then the next show he goes technology. Christopher walks in the Bing. Technology comes to the Bing as DVD players. That's how old this show is. That was cutting edge technology. Was a DVD. Now people don't even have DVD players. Interesting musical note. The song that's playing is Party Girl by Ultra Naté. Anthony DeSanto was the leading man in the movie Party Girl. I don't know if that's deliberate.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. And David's picking out all these songs.
I guess David, Martin, Bruce Lee, and I think Stevie Van Zandt. I think
Stevie had a lot to say. Stevie is an encyclopedia when it comes to the history of music. I don't know if there's anyone that knows
he's
more.
Great. If you haven't listened to his show, Underground Garage, you should. Because
I don't think there's anyone else. All right, so you stick up for Brendan. You tell Tony, why can't you be nice to Brendan?
There's a recurring theme in the show about people not feeling appreciated.
Yeah.
And Christopher says it all the time. Livia's talking about it all the time. Even a lot of characters. It's always like people feel like they need to get respect. They need to be appreciated. They need to be acknowledged and stuff like that. And Christopher especially feels like he's not.
Yeah.
And, he did this thing in the pilot where he got them, the garbage thing. He fixed that conflict they were having with the opposing waste management people.
Yeah.
And he didn't really get. He says to Tony, an attaboy would be nice. And
he was, which is funny in its own right. I don't know, the real mob guys tell the boss, an attaboy, pat me on the back. I don't think that goes on. I don't think that should go on.
I don't know.
You don't give me credit. I think it's all about money. I think the mob, the main thing is money, money, money. That's it. How much can you give me? How much can you kick up to me? That's it. That is the deciding factor. You could be the most vile human being in the world, but if you are an earner, that's all that matters.
Also, you had guys who weren't violent at all, but if they were earners, that was enough.
That's all that matters.
Doesn't have to be, yeah.
All right, so Tony calls Livia. As she's talking to him, he's at the bada bing. Georgie, of course, can't figure out the new phone system. So Tony's aggravated as it is.
Livia burns the mushrooms.
She burns the mushrooms. And what's funny is she burns the mushrooms, and Tony's, Ma, you okay? Ma, you okay? And the girls stop dancing.
Right.
The three bada bing.
They stop dancing, and they take an interest in what's going on.
Is your mom okay? And then here comes Big Pussy and Paulie.
And everybody's asking him for different stuff. They're trying to find the car. So he's all Christopher's asking about Brendan.
It's my wife. He says, talk to my wife. Driving him crazy. But it's very funny. The three strippers topless. One leans over. Is your mom okay? They're so concerned. Strippers with a heart of gold. That's what I like.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They don't care about the dollars. They care about Tony's mom,
And then they go to the house and Carmela's there. And she's trying to calm Livia down and talking about moving in. You can live with us. Carmela says, you should come and live with us. And Livia is just so miserable.
Oh,
she can't, take the kindness. She thinks everybody's against her. And she brings up, it was Tony still having his fits. She calls them.
But I mean, and Carmela's nice enough to say, you could come and live with us. She doesn't want that. I mean, that's a disaster.
But then Tony says later on, my wife's against it. I want my mother to come live with us, but my wife's against it. But you see right here, it's not true. Tony doesn't want it.
No.
I think Carmela would put up with it, but Tony doesn't want it.
I've never met anyone like Livia. My mother wasn't the most bubbly person either, but
cuddly.
I see little bits of Livia in there, little bits with certain things. She wasn't mean, but I never saw anyone like Livia. I've never seen anyone. And I'm sure they're out there, but I've never seen anyone out there.
I wonder amazing. What David's mother must have been a trip and a half.
I'm sure now. So now you guys are.
You got the coffee shop. The coffee shop. They're going to look for the stolen car, and Pussy has the line while he's in the garage. Now I'm Rockford, which is a reference to the Rockford Files, which David was a writer and producer on. Actually, in the pilot, when they go to the first nursing home, they're watching Rockford Files in the day room. The theme song from Rockford is playing.
Yeah, and David wrote on that for a number of years. Another thing, at kind of the beginning, it seems like Big Pussy's more of the boss, and Paulie's
he's the captain. Yeah,
he's the brains. He's the brains. Seems that way. Paulie, and don't forget, Tony Sirico had been around forever. But Tony, when he started on the show, was 55 years old. He was living with his mother. He was sleeping on a cot in his mother's living room, and he had been
Tony. And we know Tony had his life of.
Yeah, he is the most authentic, shall we say?
Yeah. Well, he's been open about this. There's a documentary called The Big Bang,
which is incredible if you watch it.
He's interviewed, and he talks about his criminal life.
Tony had been at it, didn't have much success. He worked small bit roles. He was in Goodfellas and a lot of stuff, but this was his first real job coming into real money. Same thing with Dominic. Even though he had those roles, Dominic, Dominic was living in a studio apartment. He was 68 years old. It's amazing.
Tony was, well, he went to jail because he was robbing nightclubs. He was sticking up nightclubs.
Shaking them down.
So he would shake them down. First, he would start fights. He'd bring a bunch of guys and start fights and bother people. So the owners would either pay him off. And if they didn't, then he would. But before that, he was a doorman or a bouncer. There was a club in the Village near Sheridan Square he worked at in the late 60s. I think it was called Sanctuary. I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. And he said he used to give Jimi Hendrix a wedgie. Jimmy lived in the Village. He had his studio on 8th Street, Electric Lady, and he used to go to the club. And Tony said he used to give him a wedgie.
That's hilarious.
Which is really bizarre. The image of Paulie Walnuts and Jimi Hendrix.
Is it more bizarre that when we went to see Tom Jones in Vegas, right? You were there.
We were all there.
We went backstage, Tom Jones at the MGM Grand.
It was a tremendous show. And
Great
I love
show.
Tom. He's a really good dude.
And he announced us from the stage, and it was Jim and me and you and a bunch of the guys. We went backstage. We had a little party, and Sirico was talking to Tom, and it turns out they used to bang the same woman.
Right. And Tom said not at the same time, though. I think that was from those club days.
So what is more than that? Tom Jones and Tony. The broads they go after the same type of guy. You know what I mean?
Well, Tony was a ladies' man, apparently. You know, he was
a good-looking guy in his day, in great shape.
Yeah. There was a porno magazine called Viva. It was like for women in the 70s, and he was a cover star in one of them. He's wearing like a one piece, like a Freddie Mercury outfit.
Yeah, one piece. I saw that.
And he
showed me those pictures.
And he's like a bodybuilder. He was huge,
Showed me those pictures. Tony Sirico would not let you touch his hair. So as great as Bose is, and for me it's the only headphones, Tony would never allow you to put headphones over that hair.
Not only that, but he would do his own hair at home.
It would take 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours.
He used to get up at 3 a.m. And
if he had a 6 o'clock call, 7 o'clock call, he would get up at 3 a.m. He would
air dried it, not with a blow dryer.
Hairspray.
It'd have to dry naturally. He would sit.
And don't ever touch his hair joking around, ever. You're going to have a problem.
No, that is true.
They threw the mold away. I love Tony Sirico. They threw the mold away. There's one of a kind. That's it.
He would spray a cloud of hairspray and then let it fall.
Yeah.
Not directly on the hair. I've seen it. That's like how long it would take. I'm not kidding. I've seen it.
Hours and hours.
I love him in the scene with Vinny in the Starbucks. This whole thing about cultural appropriation. It's like we invented this stuff, and here they are now.
Cashing in.
Starbucks wasn't as huge as it.
This was 20 years ago. Over 20 years ago. 22 years ago.
It's I think it's pretty funny.
It's very funny. Very funny. And listen, most scenes Tony was in were very funny.
And he's got to steal it on spite. He's got to steal from them. He doesn't need that coffee pot. It's just on spite that they've stolen all these things from the Italians and they get no credit for it, which I think is very funny.
So now after
he goes to Melfi and she says, bring up some happy times from your childhood. And he talks about when his father fell down the stairs and everybody laughed. That's the happy memory that they talk about.
I mean, that's the humor that I'm talking about. That's incredible how funny that is. I mean, it's not a hit on your nose punchline. I mean, it's amazing. And I'm sure people listening are going to go, wow, I never noticed that, or I never noticed this. And they're going to go back and they're going to watch it. And they're going to say, I see what you mean, how funny this stuff is, So Tony brings flowers. Goes to Livia's house.
From Frankie Valli's florist, by the way.
That's right.
Later on.
Are you kidding me? Newark, Belleville. Frankie Valli walks on water, as he should. Walks on water, as he should. But Frankie Valli has been around so long, he's attached to everything and everybody there. and they're very proud. They're very proud, and I'm a big fan of, as you are, Frank.
Yeah, we love him.
Four seasons, you know. So Tony brings flowers right away. He tells the Jamaican nurse, "No ganja." Right away.
No
Right?
ganja. She's suspicious. She thinks the nurse is stealing. She doesn't want her there. It's a nightmare. Basically.
And this is stuff, like I said, can you do that now? Can
yeah,
you do that?
I think you could do it.
With
Listen, it's unfortunately it's real. You know, I mean, people have their prejudices. I mean, it's
absolutely.
And obviously,
everything's real. This is all real. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that's what people would say. Oh, it makes Italians look bad, and this and that. And hey, it's real. It's a slice of life. I always would say that it needed to be told. This is for real.
Right. Listen, in every ethnic group, there's people that'll have their prejudice against another one too. So it's not exclusive to Italians by any means. We know that, but it is, you know, a slice of some of these people's lives. You know, I mean, I think people get that. I think no matter what background you are, where you're coming from, you watch the show, you get who these people are. You understand that that's not meant. It's not meant to represent
all of anybody, of course. No. All right, so they have a sit down outside the pork store. They meet with Tony Jr. and Jackie. Jackie, you could tell, is sick.
Uncle Junior, yeah. Junior. You could tell Jackie's sick. He's got cancer.
He's sick. He's got cancer. They're talking about you and Brendan robbing the truck. He says make restitution. All right.
And we also meet Mikey Palmici. Jimmy has that great exchange with him there.
Obviously, Tony Soprano does not like him. And he's a made guy, Tony Palmici.
Mikey Palmici is a made guy.
He's a made guy, and there's nothing he could do. And he's not happy. He puts on the phony, you know, smiling like he's in on the joke. He ain't in on the fucking joke, you know. All right, we go back to the coffee shop. He gets the address of the car thieves, big pussy. And that's when Paulie steals the coffee pot. All right. The nurse, next scene. Carmela's walking into the house. The nurse quits. And Carmela has the long talk with Livia. And there's nothing Carmela could do.
There's nothing you could do to make this woman happy.
Is impossible. Just impossible. All right.
Nothing you could do that you could help her. And then we have Christopher and Brendan have to make restitution. And Christopher's not. Here we are, Christopher again, not happy, feeling unappreciated. He shouldn't have to do this. And another thing, example of there, Tony takes some of the money, stuffs it in his pocket.
Course.
So
he
makes out no matter what.
He says, I'll see what I can do. He's very insincere, of course. Don't worry, right. I'll see what I can do. And you're never going to question Junior. You can't do that. So he middled you. He took the money. He took $5,000 off you.
He's going to make out no matter what happens.
No matter what happens. And is that when he throws Brendan in the pork store? He throws him through the door.
Into the meat table, yeah.
The meat table.
That was all built out. That was a building that they rented for the length of the show or bought or whatever, and they built that set in there, and that was always there. That was ours to use.
Brendan was doomed. You just knew he was going.
Brendan was doomed. He was, on meth and on coke, and
he was doomed. You know, you don't.
They talk about the books being closed.
Yeah.
Now the books that's a real thing, right?
That's a real thing.
The books were closed at one period for a long time, right? In New York.
Yeah, when no guys were made for whatever.
When was that?
Oh,
in the 70s, 80s?
I think in the 80s. I think they opened them up in the 80s again. I think for a long time after the Colombo Wars, maybe.
And they brought a lot of guys in from Italy at one point.
Then they brought guys in that a lot of people thought didn't deserve to be made, whatever that means. You know,
right? There's a big difference between being made and not being made.
Of course,
right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything goes up. The street guys kick up to the made guys, and on and on and on.
The made guys, the soldier kicks up to the captain,
and it goes up and up and up.
But the big difference is what? you're protected, you're guaranteed a certain amount of money, or
a lot of respect. Yeah, I don't think you're guaranteed, but you've got guys under you. It's almost like multi-level marketing.
you're
The more
protected. You're
the more
not
guys,
allowed to hurt a made guy unless you have permission.
absolutely. There's a lot of respect. That's a big deal. To be made is a big deal in that world.
One of the things we talked about later when I got into the writing and is a lot of this day-to-day low-level made guy. They don't make that much money.
Well, you saw that in Donnie Brasco.
You got
Donnie Brasco.
I never saw Donnie Brasco.
Well, Donnie Brasco, they were breaking open a parking meter. The Al Pacino character, he was a made guy, a big guy, Sonny. He was a bust out, lived in a shitty apartment. A lot of the guys are bust outs. Not all of them. A lot of them don't have money. A lot of them wind up in jail or dead.
Some of them make a lot of money. Some of them are involved in unions.
The higher up guys, make the money. It doesn't seem to me like the lower guys. They're always struggling, hustling, scraping. That's what it seems to me. My father was a very small time bookmaker. Always busted. Always on the edge of that world. Okay, Paulie and Pussy, they go to the guy's apartment and they beat up the guys.
I love Tony knocking on the door. Hamana and a Framisham.
It's really funny, and they kick the door in. That's Mike Epps and Yancey Arias. Very funny. Very, very funny scene. And obviously they take him to where they go get the plates, and they are looking for the car. Big Pussy and Paulie are on the case. They're like two detectives. They're going to find this thing for Tony.
Right. And it's too late, and they find another car. They make them steal a different car, which is hilarious.
Right,
I love the stunt when Livia runs over her friend. That stunt is tremendous. Bukosi was our stunt coordinator, but whoever did that stunt,
once again, that is not it's a very funny moment that's not supposed to be.
That's terrible.
An old lady got hit by a car, and for some reason you laugh. Exactly. I don't know why you laugh at that. Doctor says Livia shouldn't live alone anymore.
That's when Tony says, I want her to live with me, but my wife won't allow it, which is a lie.
And what does she say? Seniors are inspiring, and they're inspired.
I know seniors who are inspired, and he says that to Livia later on.
Yeah, but he says the cap. She says something in French.
Oh, she says Greengrove. He brings up Greengrove, nursing home. She says, "Oh, it's like a fancy resort in Cap d'Antibes."
French he tells her it's Captain Teebs.
It's like one of Captain Teebs' hotels. It's funny. He's him parroting and repeating the things she says, because she says, "I know seniors who were inspired." And he says the exact line to Livia later on, but it doesn't really know what he's saying. It's hilarious.
Christopher and Brendan, they're at the club.
Well, that's the first time you see Christopher and Adriana together as a couple.
Yes, they're waiting outside to get in.
And then Martin Scorsese shows up.
That guy's from
not Martin Scorsese.
No, the guy his name's Anthony Casso, and he's from. I grew up on Bay 11th Street.
He's not the gang. There's a gangster named Anthony Gaspipe Casso. That's a different guy.
No, there was a bunch of brothers. I didn't know him, but there was a bunch of Casso brothers. I know some of them, all different ages. And he lived. I lived on Bay 11th in Bensonhurst. He lived on Bay 10th, and there was a whole bunch of them. And Vincent Gardenia lived from around the corner. Right? Yeah. He lived right around the corner from me, and I think Casso was friends with him. He was with the acting, and Anthony Casso played Martin Scorsese.
And Christopher's just really mesmerized in that moment. I mean, he sees Marty, and he's just it means so much more to him than anybody else. Yeah. Than anybody else who's there.
That's me. That's me. I'm calling you.
Sorry. Christopher's really, and I don't know if that has to do with me, because Marty Scorsese was a kind of, more instrumental than anybody in me having a career in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I worked for Marty after Goodfellas in his office.
Oh, did you? as an assistant.
Yeah, about a year later, I'm the woman who ran his development office. I became friends with because we had mutual friends in the theater. I was doing a play that she saw. She hired me to be her assistant. That was in the Brill Building, which is the old, famous building for music publishers. But Marty's office was on the 10th floor. The development office was on the 8th. So I was in the office with
How
this woman.
was he as a boss?
I didn't work for him directly. I worked for Melanie Friesen, his development woman.
Did De Niro ever come by? That asswipe? Did he ever come by?
He didn't. But my job was to answer phones. My job was his video collection was right next to my office. And it was like a video store. He had thousands of movies. And nobody did it that time. This is like 89, 90. And people would borrow movies from Marty. Other directors, journalists, writers. So I would have to make sure they would go back where they were and keep track. The other thing I did, I had to go through every newspaper. This is before the internet. I had to go through every newspaper every week and clip out every review of every movie that came out and put it in like an album, because he wanted to know about whether it was documentary, animated, drama, comedy. He wanted to know about every single movie.
Stuff that he had nothing to do with.
Every movie.
Wow.
He wanted to know about it. He's that committed. But I did that for a while. It was a lot of fun and interesting.
That's amazing.
So Marty,
I didn't know
I'm always grateful to Marty forever.
So now the dance club. So you're trying to get in. You're waiting. Now the two of you are drunk and high.
And we're doing, and it's
talking shit.
Talk. They're talking shit. They're talking big shot, And Christopher's thinking about what he saw on TV. That wise guy saying guys don't respect the tradition. They don't even know who to kick up to anymore. And you say
at one point, you say, fuck Tony. So you're in that scene. So you guys are just shit talking. You're high. All right. Next, we go to Tony goes to Livia's house.
That's when he says, I know seniors are inspired to Livia. That's kind of, he's getting pissed off.
Captain Teeb's Hotels.
And he finds out she gave away the jewelry to,
Here,
she gave away jewelry because nobody
Carmela never complimented us.
See, that's what I'm saying. The scene about being appreciated and appreciated.
And he says, you gave her the good jewelry and you're giving me a vibrating chair.
Right. And then Brendan goes to pick me up, Christopher up. Christopher's high on pot. He's stoned on pot, which is kind of hilarious. He don't want to go nowhere. And now he's saying, you got to respect this thing of ours. Why be in a crew? Why be a gangster? It's important to listen to the boss. We shouldn't do this. And he doesn't go.
And he goes, Brendan, and he fucks it up. And by accident, they kill the driver.
The driver, played by Manny Severo, who's he was a stunt coordinator for many years. A movie I did, Sweet Nothing. He was stunt coordinator on that with Jeff Ward. Really good guy, a martial artist. I
knew the way he fell, he had to be a stuntman.
That's And then when he dies, Anthony DeSanto, Brendan, he's hard. He knows he's fucked. He grabs his junk, his own junk. Like, it's a very weird gesture, but really interesting. I like when he tells the guy, stop turning the gun sideways. That whole gangster thing.
That's what they do only in the movies, right?
And now here again, here's a similar cut that what I brought up before. The hijack scene of, robbery, thievery, and now murder, violence that leads to murder, cut to the exterior of Green Grove, which does look like a hotel on the French Riviera. That contrast between this dirty, violent business and now what it could buy, this luxury, the highest end of nursing homes for the guy's mother. It's interesting edits, really cool connection.
So Christopher tells Tony that Brendan, hit Junior's truck and the guy got killed, and you're claiming you had nothing to do with it. Now we go into the warehouse, and all the suits are there. Silvio's trying on a suit,
and the guys take the suit. I think 46 long is Tony's size, right?
Yeah,
that's the name of the episode.
And Tony's giving you all kinds of shit. That you don't respect it. What do we talk about? Leadership. He's giving you all this bullshit, but they steal the fucking suits.
But they steal the suits.
The four of them
thieves,
go after. There's larceny in their heart. They cannot help themselves. Tony cannot help himself. So even there, in that real moment. I guess he'll just figure he'll deal with it later. You know
Even with the DVD players, they're all bitching about them, how the sound's not as good, the picture's not as good as the laser, but they're all grabbing them and taking them.
At some point, he makes reference to W.C. Fields' movie,
The Bank Dick, which is a great movie if you haven't seen it.
So AJ's teacher gets the car back, and as we see, it's not the car; it's different set of keys. The inside of the trunk is yellow. The teacher may or may not know it. He just doesn't give a shit. He's got his car back.
But now he's, he owes them.
He owes them, and he's driving around in a stolen car. Tony cleans out his mother's house when she moves to the retirement home.
And this refers again to the ducks, now like when the ducks were gone, he's in the empty house. He looks back at a picture of himself with his mother. He sees his family, the family breaking apart. The father's dead. The mother's getting old, going to a nursing home. The house he grew up in has been in his life the house has been in his life since he's a boy. This is the end of that.
He's having a panic attack.
But he doesn't pass out. He just... So that she says that's an improvement. He's improving.
He also had a panic attack at the nursing home earlier.
That's right.
Earlier in the episode. If you watch it now, everybody out there, you're going to watch this. There's 5 seconds they don't do anything. Everyone's just
standing there. Right, that's true.
They're just staring at him. The head of the nursing home, they're just staring. Nobody does anything. Then they.
Hold on. That. Get me a doctor,
Tony, of course, he doesn't want to admit that he hates his mother. He storms out. Melfi tells him that's what's going on.
But she says that angers and feelings, they need to be acknowledged. Otherwise, they define your life. Which is great. All this argument about this show doesn't represent Italians the way Melfi... Everybody always forgets Melfi's character. They never bring her into that argument.
Yeah.
This is a woman who's a therapist who knows her shit.
A lot of people didn't even watch the show. A lot of these people that complained, they never even watched it. They heard. There used to be an old lady in Mulberry Street at the Italian deli. She go, "Oh, I hate your show. Did you ever see it?" "No, but I've heard." "What you hear? From who?" "You watch it." I used to tell them,
they like all The Godfather and Goodfellas and all that.
Okay.
I don't know.
And then, of course, the end of the show, he messes up again, Georgie. He can't quite get the knack of this new phone system. And Tony, his frustration with everything.
Well, she just said, if it's not acknowledged, the anger defines your life, and here's the anger defining his life. I love the girls again. The dancers stop.
They're very concerned.
They watch it, and then the music... And then they just kind of slowly get back into the dance.
They're very concerned. Yeah. These are strippers with a heart of gold. On another note, the strip clubs in Vegas closed down. And they were doing drive-through. The strippers were doing drive-throughs. The guys would drive through in their car, and the girls would dance for them topless, and then the guys would drive off.
And how much is that?
I don't know. I don't get the price.
It's free during these hard times for everybody.
Seriously.
It's a public service.
I think they stopped
volunteers.
But that is that is truth. Unbelievable.
There we go.
All right. Great episode. Great talking to you. And
all right, we're going to do our Ask Me Anything segment. This episode of Talking Sopranos is sponsored by Bose. You can experience immersive audio anywhere with the Bose noise-canceling headphone 700. Bose is also the sponsor of our Ask Me Anything segment. Now, you can go to our website, talkingsopranos.com, submit your questions. We pick the best question of the week, and we read it on air, and we try to answer it.
You win a Bose 700 headphones.
And you picked it this week, Steve. What question is it?
Okay, so I got one from Zebras. And it's, hey, when you guys signed on to be on the show, did you two ever believe the show would have this much success where a podcast would be created afterwards about it?
I mean, the pilot, I had no idea. Like I said, during the first season, script after script, I realized this was something groundbreaking and special. was after the show aired. The reviews were so out of control, great, wall to wall. New York Times, greatest. They said it was the greatest work of pop culture in the 20th century. So the reviews were so out of control. Saturday Night Live did a skit parody about the reviews, not about the show.
Okay.
So the fans were kind of forced to watch it. When those reviews hit, I realized, okay, this is going to be something amazing. You know, I mean, I knew the show was, but I knew this would have such an impact on me.
Now I came on. I started shooting July of 1999. I was there just as the Emmys were announced, and I believe it was the first cable show. And there was 16 Emmy nominations, and that just took it to a whole new level right there. You know, no cable show had been nominated. Here come The Sopranos, 16 nominations, and that's when it just exploded. You know, just was a whole nother thing. I had no idea. Like I said, I watched it. I didn't watch it. I wasn't a crazy fan. I'd be lying if I said, you know, I watched it. I didn't watch it. You know, I had no idea, even when the show ended. Now, we were together at the finale. 9 of us watched the show at the Hard Rock Hotel, the first time we ever watched it together.
In Hollywood, Florida.
In Hollywood, Florida, the Hard Rock. 10,000 people showed up. We walked the red carpet all through that casino. 10,000 people. Then we watched the episode alone. We did a Q&A and meet and greet, high rollers, and then 9 of us watched the finale. That was crazy. Even Stevie said, man, I've been a lot of places. I've never seen stuff like this because it was so crazy. And to think that was in 2007, and here we are in 2020, and we do our show, Conversations with the Sopranos. We've been doing versions of that where
a stage show, yeah.
We went to Australia last year. Thousands of people showed up. It got canceled. 15,000 people bought tickets coming up in May. That has been postponed.
In England, we were going to go to UK and Ireland.
UK and Ireland, and the sales were incredible.
We'll get there soon. There soon. Next year, maybe.
And we've done a ton of these shows here. And to think people are still interested. Thousands of people show up at these things we do. And I had no idea. And if you told me ever that would happen, the answer is absolutely not. No idea that it would just keep on going and getting bigger and bigger. It seems like you said probably more people are watching it and more people know about us now than they did then.
So, thanks, Zebra. We're going to send you a pair of Bose Headphones 700, and you can learn more about these and other products at Bose.com, BOSE.com.
Okay, so thanks for listening, and remember to subscribe to Talking Sopranos podcast wherever you get your podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and please like us on Facebook.
Our executive producer is Jeff Sussman. Producer is Andy Verderam. Our music, our theme song, Long Way to Now, is composed and performed by Community Room. Our production crew includes Eric Desi, Bobby Hutch, Frank McCaw, and Ty Verderam. Talking Sopranos is a Pod Jams production.
All right, pal. Good talking to you, man. See you. Stay safe out there, everybody. We love you.